entirely alone, and dying of it. He was part of an unprecedented multitude. There were boys and girls drinking coffee at the drugstore counters who were held back from his condition by barriers as perishable as their dwindling cigarettes. They could scarcely bear their knowledge, nor could they have borne the sight of Rufus, but they knew why he was in the streets tonight, why he rode subways all night long, why his stomach growled, why his hair was nappy, his armpits funky, his pants and shoes too thin, and why he did not dare to stop and take a leak. Now he stood before the misty doors of the jazz joint, peering in, sensing rather than seeing the frantic black people on the stand and the oblivious, mixed crowd at the bar. The music was loud and empty. No one was doing anything at all, and it was being hurled at the crowd like a malediction in which not even those who hated most deeply any longer believed. They knew that no one heard, that bloodless people cannot be made to bleed. So they blew what everyone had heard before. They reassured everyone that nothing terrible was happening, and the people at the tables found it pleasant to shout over this stunning corroboration, and the people at the bar, under cover of the noise they could scarcely have lived without, pursued whatever it was they were after. He wanted to go in and use the bathroom, but he was ashamed of the way he looked. He had been in hiding, really, for nearly a month, and he saw himself now, in his mind's eye, shambling through this crowd to the bathroom and crawling out again while everyone watched him with pitying or scornful or mocking eyes. Or someone would be certain to whisper, "Isn't that Rufus Scott?" Someone would look at him with horror, then turn back to his business with a long, drawn-out, pitying, "Man." He could not do it, and he danced on one foot and then the other, and tears came to his eyes. A white couple, laughing, came through the doors, giving him barely a glance as they passed. The warmth, the smell of people, whiskey, beer, and smoke, which came out to hit him as the doors opened, almost made him cry for fare, and it made his empty stomach growl again. It made him remember days and nights, when he had been inside, on the stand or in the crowd, sharp, beloved, making it with any chick he wanted, making it to parties and getting high and getting drunk and fooling around with the musicians who were his friends, who respected him. Then, going home to his own pad, locking his door and taking off his shoes, maybe making himself a drink, maybe listening to some records, stretching out on the bed, maybe calling up some girl, and changing his underwear and his socks and his shirt, shaving and taking a shower, and making it to Harlem to the barber shop, then seeing his mother and his father and teasing his sister, Ida, and eating spare ribs or pork chops or chicken or greens or cornbread or yams or biscuits. For a moment, he thought he would faint with hunger, and he moved to a wall of the building and leaned there. His forehead was freezing with sweat. He thought, "This has got to stop, Rufus. This shit has got to stop." Then, in weariness and recklessness, seeing no one on the streets and hoping that no one would come through the doors, leaning with one hand against the wall, he sent his urine splashing against the stone-cold pavement, watching the faint steam rise. He remembered Leona, or a sudden, cold, familiar sickness filled him, and he knew he was remembering Leona. And he began to walk, very slowly now, away from the music, with his hands in his pockets and his head down. He no longer felt the cold. For to remember Leona was also, somehow, to remember the eyes of his mother, the rage of his father, the beauty of his sister. It was to remember the streets of Harlem, the boys on the stoops, the girls behind the stairs and on the roofs, the white policemen who had taught him how to hate, the stickball games in the streets, the women leaning out of the windows and the numbers they played daily, hoping for the hit his father never made. It was to remember the jukebox, the teasing, the dancing, the hard-on, the gang fights and gang bangs, his first set of drums, bought him by his father, his first taste of marijuana, his first snort of horse. Yes, and the boys too far out, jackknifed on the stoops, the boy dead from an overdose on a rooftop in the snow.